Fallout Equestria the Chrysalis, Chapter 28, On the Road. Starlight was gone when I woke up. She'd been lying right next to me the whole night, cuddled up close. Despite lying awake for most of the night and sleeping fitfully, even when I did drift off, I'd somehow missed her slip away. I'd pushed myself up, looking blearily around in the dim morning light. Dusty was a short distance away, drinking slowly from a cup and looking as weary as I felt. I didn't get the chance to speak before he gestured with a hoof, already figuring what was on my mind. I struggled to my hooves, and slowly staggered my way in the direction he had indicated. Starlight was sitting almost 100 feet from camp when I found her. She was staring down at her pit buck, her hoof resting gently atop it. She remained like that until she noticed my approach, her hoof slipping away as she looked back at me. I drew up beside her. Despite my fatigue and the relentless worry that refused to leave my mind, I asked,
"What's wrong?" "Oh, nothing,"
she said, looking back to her pit buck.
"Just thinking."
I sat beside her with a quiet groan.
"About what?" "This,"
she said, lifting her pit buck a fraction before lowering it again.
"And everything else I have, and us, and, well, yeah, pretty much everything."
I grunted softly.
"Sounds familiar,"
I said, reaching up to habitually rub at my eyes.
"I was so caught up thinking about everything that I hardly slept." "Yeah."
Starlight said, slowly nodding.
"It's just, we almost lost everything there. I mean, I've almost died a few times now, but this?"
I nodded and reached out a leg, gently looping a foreleg around her shoulders.
"Shit, we didn't even know."
She continued.
"We could have been stuck there the rest of our lives and not even known it. And..."
She turned her pit buck slightly, her hoof once again touching beside the screen.
"And they took my pit buck and my lancer, and I didn't even remember them. I forgot."
Her breath caught, tears welling up in her eyes, but she fought them back. I gave her a reassuring squeeze. She sniffled, wiping at her eyes.
"Just... the more I think on what those changelings did, the more scared I am. These are all I've got from my mom, and I almost forgot them. It's like I almost forgot her."
She shuddered, leaning into me, her eyes fixated on her pit buck. My own concerns felt a little small at that moment.
"Sorry,"
she said, her voice raw.
"It's just, everything's going to crap, and I don't have a clue what to do about it."
She paused, a frown touching her expression.
"You know how when we met, I was working as a guard for that caravan?"
I nodded, thinking back to the ill-fated group.
"I was there because, I wanted to protect ponies. I thought it was something my mom could be proud of."
I could see where that thought was going, and gave another squeeze. She let her forehooves fall, looking out across the rolling terrain.
"How many ponies were in Serenity?"
My ears drooped.
"Yeah, there were dozens. Some zebras and griffins, too." "Dozens,"
she echoed.
"Just as clueless as we were. And who even knows what Serenity is gonna do next? How much worse?"
She fell silent again, as if deep in thought. After several more seconds, she slowly drew in a deep breath and exhaled.
"I wish I was more like my mom. She always had a plan, knew exactly what to do. Hell, she recorded a message for me years before I was born. I don't have the kind of, foresight or whatever." "It's a difficult situation,"
I said, nodding.
"Though, to be fair, looking like you know what you're doing in a difficult situation is often as simple as remaining calm and level-headed when you have no idea what to do."
Starlight was still and silent for several long seconds. I had just started to worry that I had offended her when the corner of her mouth crept up a hair, followed by the soft exhale of an almost silent chuckle.
"Okay, I know you're trying to cheer me up in your weird, buggy way, but did you seriously just say my mom had no idea what she was doing?"
I replied with a soft chuckle.
"No, I'm saying that from what I've heard from you, she knew exactly what she was doing. Even when she didn't."
I smiled. She gave a slightly more audible chuckle, and pushed my side lightly with her shoulder.
Thanks, I think.
The smile slowly slipped away until she was staring silently at her hooves.
So, I guess the first part of that would be moving on, instead of just sitting here moping, right?
I nodded again.
It's a start, which is better than doing nothing. We've got a lot of traveling to do, and that means a lot of time to think. Wonderful.
She grunted, then heaved a deep sigh.
Sorry. I'm done moping. You think you'll come up with something?
I resisted the urge to grunt myself.
Maybe. I'll certainly be thinking about it the whole time.
She stopped and looked at me, really looked at me, as if she had just realized that I had been part of the conversation.
Yeah. I guess you would be, huh? Yeah.
I forced a wry, half-hearted smile.
Like I said, it's a difficult situation. Yeah.
She agreed. We stood in awkward silence for a few more seconds.
Well, I guess we should get going. Probably.
We returned to our tiny camp. Minutes later, we climbed into the motor wagon. I had the back seat to myself. I strapped myself in, and Starlight started driving. Despite the jostling, I fell asleep within minutes. The motor wagon tore across the wasteland. I could easily fly faster than it, but I lacked the endurance of the tireless machine. As such, it traversed the barren land more swiftly than I could have done by wing, and far faster than my land-bound companions could have managed. Miles rolled by as the vehicle creaked and groaned and rattled, leaving a long trail of dust drifting way behind us. After my nap, I spent most of the time sitting silently in the back seat, gazing out the narrow gap in the armor beside me. For most of the trip, I was far too lost in thought to register the landscape passing by. For all my thinking, I had come up with nothing. I slumped against the side of the vehicle, continuing to stare without really seeing, thinking without reaching any conclusions. I know Dusty and Starlight both have tried to strike up conversations, though that information barely registered with me at the time. I think I might have offered a few half-hearted replies, but I couldn't tell you now what they had been. It seemed so unimportant at the time. The only thing that did register was information that had some significant importance. In this case, it was Starlight during our short stop for lunch, when she checked on the power in the motor wagon's spark batteries. They'd been fully charged when we took it from Serenity, and according to Starlight, should hold enough charge for 2 more days of operation. The spark packs we had in the cargo bay would probably be enough for a full charge, perhaps with a bit spare. Dusty mentioned wishing for a spark generator. But after all that, we were driving again. The evening proved no more productive than the morning. Ideas formed, only to be immediately discarded. By the time the sky started to darken with the onset of night, I was probably spending more time mentally grumbling than I was on anything useful. I mostly tuned out what was happening around me as we settled in for the night. I know Starlight laid out her bedroll beside mine. I also know Sickle sat on top of Dusty. Her improved health seemed to have enlarged her already significant libido, and further cemented my desire to tune out everything around me. As we settled in for the night, I tried to comfort myself that we were at least making progress towards finding the remains of my hive. My mood led me to note if they are still alive with an extra helping of cynicism. It wasn't really the best note to go to sleep on. It was still dark when I woke, and Starlight was gone once again. I could see the lump of Dusty and Sickle through the darkness, sleeping a few yards away, which meant Starlight must be on watch. Normally, that would have been the end of it. I would have closed my eyes and eventually drifted off again. Instead, I heard the sound of her voice, barely carrying through the still night air. She was talking. I lifted my head, looking to the nearby lump just to make sure. Sure enough, that was Dusty half hidden under Sickle's foreleg and thoroughly dwarfed by the larger mare. Which raised the question, who was Starlight talking to? Thoughts of sleep were forgotten as I pushed aside my thin blanket. I quietly made my way towards the faint sounds of Starlight's voice. My ears perked alertly to capture any sound, my eyes plucking details out of the darkness of night under the cloud cover. I found Starlight kicked back atop a rock a short distance away, close enough to watch over our camp, well, at least as much as pony eyes could do in that darkness, without disturbing our sleep. The soft glow of her pip-buck underlit her face with green. She was speaking into it.
It was pretty impressive, but well, it's more than that. She helped me out a lot. This last, what has been like 2 months?
A pause as she pressed buttons.
Wow, 40 days. It's been pretty crazy, but yeah, I don't think I would have gotten through it without her. I mean, she can be kind of weird at times, but you know, ancient changeling super spy. It'd be weird if it wasn't weird, but she's nice.
I paused by a scraggly bush, watching and listening intently, and not daring to make a sound. Ooh, she's eavesdropping. Though I forget if they use holotapes or something else, I can't remember. If you do know it, please do let us know in the comments. Anyway, let's get into our knowledgeable donators. Top donators: Jessie Smith, Star630, BadassWaffle, Onlyonething, Ceru, Orion, and Caladis. Magific, Jock, Luciisu, Rayden, Runescythe, Will, Twinkie, Luigi, Chancellor, Crust, Big Smoke, Murder Princess, LILmighty, Solar Symphony, and many more amazing people. Thank you all so much for watching this video and live life to the fullest.